Hello, everybody. I'm always happy to be back with you guys. This is Michael Voss, and I am the Dragon of the Southern Tier, and I am here on No Soundbites Allowed with you, and we're able to be seen on the Exceptional Conservative Network. I'm happy to be back with you guys. I've been talking with my intern, John, here for a little bit, and we're going to have him on in a second speaking, but one of the things that I wanted to also mention, because I should have mentioned it a little bit before, if you are in the Binghamton area, please drop by my friends over at the Belmar Pub and over at the Park Diner. This is not a paid advertisement. They're just my friends. I enjoy going to their businesses and being able to have great food, great drinks, and enjoy good company. And I advise you, if you're in the Binghamton area, please drop by the Belmar Pub or the Park Diner. Tell them Mike sent you. So with that said, and I did want to include them, and I apologize that I didn't mention them in the first hour that we've been here, but that's right, we're here for 2 hours. Normally on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we're on for 1 hour, but on Saturdays, we spend an extra hour listening to you, looking for your comments in our chat room, contacting us on phone at 607-242-9247, or on our Twitter at MVConsult, because we enjoy hearing from you in all of the formats that are out there. Now, the second hour, in the first hour, we went through a lot of upsetting good news that we beat YouTube at their own game. That's right. That YouTube came out to censor the creators, and guess what? We fought back and we won the challenge against them. But we want to hit 4,000 subscribers. We want to hit 4,000 likes. We want to hit 4,000 views on any video on our site, including the public service announcement, Fight Shadow Banning. That's right, hashtag Fight Shadow Banning. You'll see that on our page on YouTube. Please like it, share it, let people know. Support all of the content creators that you enjoy, whether it's in video games or music videos, movie reviews, political commentary. I don't care what it is. If it's cats playing, I don't care what it is. Like it, share it, comment, subscribe, and don't let YouTube shut down their voices, because that's the First Amendment. That's your right, and they don't get to do that if they are a neutral organization. And if they're not neutral, they need to tell you that. Tell us all so we can play by the rules and know what we're dealing with. But that's being said, I want to move on and talk about some of the other things that have been very interesting in the area. We talked a little bit about the unemployment, and that the economy is actually more stable than we think, than we're told it is by many of the politicians like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders and Speaker Nancy Pelosi. What we're seeing is a very stable, full employment, and it's probably going to stay that way unless Bill Maher gets his preferences and we see that the economy gets destroyed, which would be upsetting. But one of the things I wanted to bring up before we go further is talking about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Yes, she is one of our favorites here on the show. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who never is at loss of being able to remind us that even sea sponges are smarter than her. In fact, she reminds us that one of our favorites on the show is our friend Minion, who's always here, and he, right this second, is able to say more intelligent things than Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. You can see him on the screen, and you know what? You didn't hear anything from him. That's smarter than what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has said since the day that she won her primary, in my opinion. So media matters. Yeah, prove me wrong. And one of the things that caught our attention, and this is something that caught the attention of intern John, so I'm going to turn over. Go ahead, John. Tell us a little bit about this.
So pretty much AOC was doing a congressional hearing with the FBI regarding white supremacist terrorism and domestic terrorism and counterterrorism and things like that. And pretty much one of the experts on domestic terrorism and counterterrorism was speaking at the panel, and she got into a spat with him about what he was saying and how he was wrong about his definitions, even though he works for the FBI.
Okay. So to be clear, we're talking about, and this is, you can see this from a tweet by Ryan Saavedra, who's a reporter at the Daily Wire, and he mentioned that FBI Assistant Director of Counterterrorism Michael McGarrity was the one who was having a back and forth with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez about terrorism, domestic terrorism, and the crimes that have faced the nation. And in fact, we're going to play a little bit of that conversation, actually the full thing, of what they said to each other so that you can hear what's going on.
The Emmanuel AME Church shooting of Black Americans in Charleston and the Tree of Life synagogue shooting in Pittsburgh of Jewish people, those were only designated and charged as hate crimes, not domestic terrorist incidents. Mr. McGarrity, why did the FBI not believe that these incidents were domestic terrorist incidents?
That's not correct. I don't know who told you that we didn't, but we certainly had cases open on them in both those cases, and I wasn't here for the Dylan Roof case, but it's certainly in our own Department of Justice Civil Rights about 3-4 weeks ago, and their testimony actually stated that it was a domestic terrorism event charged through the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice for a hate crime. I was here for the Tree of Life. I will tell you, I remember that day distinctly. It was worked as both a domestic terrorism case and a hate crimes case, and it still worked that way.
And so you are disputing that the AME, you're saying that AME was charged with domestic terrorism, Dylan Roof.
So you're using the word charge. So as I said before, there's no domestic terrorism charge like 18 U.S.C. 2339 A, B, C, D for a foreign terrorist organization. So what we do, both on the international terrorism side with homegrown violent extremists and domestic terrorists, we'll use any tool in the toolkit to arrest them, hopefully left of attack. Should it be after, likely that hate crime statute will come into play through the Civil Rights Division as a charge, because it's a good federal charge for us to use in defense of domestic terrorism.
But the actual charge, was the actual charge domestic terrorism?
You're not going to find an actual charge of domestic terrorism out there. If you look at Title 18, right? If you're looking for...
Well, it says here that, but at the San Bernardino shooting or the Orlando Pulse nightclub shooting, they were designated and charged as domestic terrorist incidents.
They were charged, I'd have to go back and look, they were charged likely with, if there was a connection to a foreign terrorist organization, it would likely fall under 18 U.S.C. 23 A or B.
All right. So that's the first part of it, and I think it's really important. So Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is trying to make a very political case. She's trying to say that, hey, you're not being PC. You're not being politically correct. That this is a violation of people's freedom to have a religion, and that the government is attacking one group of people who happen to be people of color, and this is unfair because white supremacists should be attacked for the same thing. So, and in fact, one of our members of Congress failed to understand that there is no law like she's saying it is. And he goes further. Mr. McGarrity goes on and has further comments about this, and I want to play that as well. So again, you can hear in context everything that's going on. So let's hear a little bit more of what he had to say.
So because the perpetrator was Muslim, doesn't it seem that because the perpetrator is Muslim,
that's not correct. That has nothing
that
to do,
the designation would say it's a foreign organization?
That's not correct. That is not correct.
Okay. Can you explain why?
So, homegrown violent extremists, most of the people we arrest in the United States, homegrown violent extremists, self-radicalized, born in the U.S., doesn't matter what religion.
But the Orlando Pulse Club shooter meets those qualifications, and you're implying...
He was worked as an international terrorist because he was following under the definition...
But he was homegrown and self-radicalized.
How we work homegrown violent extremist cases under the global jihad, we worked under international terrorism. That is correct.
Is white supremacy not a global issue?
It is a global issue.
So why are they not charged with foreign?
Because the United
Terrorism.
States Congress doesn't have a statute for us for domestic terrorism like we do on a foreign terrorist organization like ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Al-Shabaab.
And there you go. Okay, again, we're seeing the ever so popular, ever so wonderful Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is trying to create law that doesn't exist and enforce it on our government and on our people. She's out there trying to make up things and trying to, if you're not listening to her, you're going to hear her say, oh, well, this is the answer. No, it's not. You don't know what you're talking about. You're mixing up and confusing things and trying to make it sound like one thing as opposed to another. I mean, am I misunderstanding that, John?
No, absolutely not. And I kind of wanted to tune in on this one because I am a college student and I know I deal with a lot of college progressives on a daily basis. Being young and conservative, it's different on a college campus. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is treated as their messiah, almost. And I said on our last podcast, some people view her as a saintly figure. And it's really, I find it hard to, find these videos of her actually talking, or if I ask someone who really likes AOC, have you seen this video with her or anything? They go, no, I've only seen her Twitter. And after this hearing, despite the fact that she was proved wrong, she goes, well, my team fact-checked it. The actual quote is, first the FBI witness tried to say I was wrong. I tried to be generous and give benefit of the doubt, but then we checked. I wasn't.
And I want to mention that no one less than ABC News, which is definitely not left-leaning by anyone's definition, not right-leaning. They are left-leaning by most people's definition. ABC News came out, and they mentioned that, and the article is, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez appears to conflate two types of FBI cases in viral video. This was published on June 7th of this year at 5:10 p.m. So that was yesterday. And that article goes on in it to highlight how that she's wrong. And where is the exact, and I want to go through, there's a certain line in here, and you can read the article for yourself. But they mention in there, here it is, I can't speak now. But Ocasio-Cortez appeared to be confusing two different types of FBI cases, a mix-up that even law enforcement officials outside the FBI often make too. None of the perpetrators in those ISIS-inspired cases was designated or charged as a domestic terrorist. Instead, they were each designated and charged as homegrown violent extremists, which may sound like a domestic terrorist, but is actually quite different, at least to the FBI. Okay, so what they're saying very simply, that the law doesn't let you get to do this. When you're talking about the San Bernardino shooters, who were ISIS, they were inspired by ISIS, they were claimed to be members of ISIS, and that they were conducting an act of terrorism for ISIS is not going to be looked at in the same way as a white supremacist running around saying that they just don't like the government and that they have racist ideology. They're not the same thing. Are they both problems? Absolutely. But by the law, they're different. The law is, that's the way Congress wrote the law. They're different. One is based on an international, radical, fanatical ideology of terror, and one is based on a homegrown, domestic, extremist point of view, which are not the same thing. And let me ask you, John, you're on college campuses?
Yeah.
Did anyone in a college campus, any of the students that you know where that environment exists for far left reaching, does anyone mention the difference?
No one mentions the difference. And now they're going to think, because I guarantee most of the college progressives I know don't research other than the tweets. They take it as Bible for a lot of leftist progressives. So whatever Bernie Sanders says is the truth. They don't do the fact checking. And I know more of my conservative friends, and I think this is kind of a difference, they will always fact check, right or left. They'll always fact check the source. But for most of these left-leaning individuals, they'll take it as gospel. So now that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has said that these people were charged with domestic terrorist cases and that there's a bias, from the FBI when pursuing terrorist cases, they're going to take it as gospel. They aren't going to do the extra research. They're not going to go the step beyond.
No.
And it's going to be much harder to debate with these people, and it makes it harder to share ideas when you go, nope, this is fact, when it isn't.
Yeah, and the thing is that ABC News made it very clear. There is no proof. She says she fact-checked it. No one knows how she fact-checked it. There's no evidence. She didn't provide, even in her tweets, where is the evidence that said, hey, here's a fact check. Here's where you can go and see the source where I was proven right. No, they are the same thing. Here's the law as he was asking for it. 18 USC. Here is the US Code of Law that says this is the crime. Doesn't exist. Oh, yes, but we fact-checked it. Then what's the crime? What's the code in the United States law that says this is the crime? It doesn't exist, but she doesn't care, obviously. She wants to be right. And you know what? We have something about that, and I want to point that out because we've heard this kind of thing before where she wants to be right, and that's the most important thing. Have you heard this?
My real objection is that I don't think political correctness works. I want to achieve, I want to get to Golden Hill, but I don't think that's the way to get there. I believe one of the greatest human failings is to prefer to be right than to be effective. And political correctness is always obsessed with how right it is without thinking of how effective it might be. I wouldn't class myself as...
So that's, in case you were wondering, that was Stephen Fry, a very well-known and very well-noted left-leaning liberal. And he's talking about how the left wants to be right. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez wants to be right. It's not that they are right. They feel like they're right. I'm sure Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was speaking to the FBI director and she felt like she knew there was a law. But the reality is, the fact is, there's no law. She feels like she fact-checked it and feels like she found something, except there's no way to type out feelings onto Twitter. You can't show your Twitter and say, here's my feeling. Isn't that right? You can't win a court case going into the courtroom and telling the judge, I feel like I'm right. And the judge is going to say, well, that's fantastic. The law says you're not. And you lose. You don't get to make a law going, well, because we feel like this should be the case, and looking at Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's history, if we can call it that, her desires for, say, green energy, that just because she feels like green energy is a great idea, that doesn't mean it's going to work. It doesn't mean that the wind is suddenly blowing and windmills are suddenly generating power and solar energy suddenly working. It doesn't magically create energy. It doesn't magically let someone build a railroad in less than 10 years across the entire nation to every city and every town in the nation and have that reach Hawaii. Just doesn't happen because feelings don't make that happen. Facts, someone actually building stuff actually makes that happen. And resources and, real world material, life makes it happen. Not because she said, well, that'd be really nice. And once again, as we saw, according to ABC, she can't find the proof. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, that leads to some other fun things happening, like when we see that Fox News comes out and they put in their AOC schooled by FBI counterterrorism officials after suggesting white supremacists are getting off the hook, which is an article by just a few hours ago on Saturday, June 8th, by Fox News. And of course, they wasted no time mentioning how she's making all these claims, but can't find any proof, that she can't stand up to it. And of course, they highlighted the comments by Michael McGarrity, the counterterrorism division of the FBI, when he said, you're using the You're using the word charge. As I said before, there's no domestic terrorism charge like 18 U.S.C. 2339 ABCD for foreign terrorist organizations. Okay? He goes on to say what we do both in the international terrorism side with the homegrown violent extremists and domestic terrorism. We'll use any tool in the toolkit to arrest them. This is pretty simple stuff. But somehow Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez doesn't believe that. And when you're looking at a tweet, which I hate, this is why we have no sound bites. Because Alexandria's soundbite is, oh my God, it's racist. That's her feeling, for one. And two, it's a soundbite. It means nothing. Oh, it's racist. And I'll give her the benefit of the doubt. It's racist. Okay, if it's racist, is it law? Is there, you know what? Let me ask you, John, you're in college.
Yep.
John the intern. John, and I'm going to use the image of Minion for you.
Thank you.
While.
Yep.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. So, John the intern, let me ask you a question. I want to protect you from your college friends for some of the comments we're going to make here. So, let me just ask, is there a law against racism?
No, I mean, it's under freedom of speech. I mean, if you're actively going out and, hurting people. Or,
No, that would be, if I hurt someone, that's an assault.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not talking about assault. And I'm not talking about free speech, because there are laws on the ability to speak, even though YouTube wants to violate them and to shadow ban and to restrict people. So let's throw that out. That's not what we're talking about. I'm talking about racism. Is there a law against racism?
I don't believe so.
There's a law against slavery. You can't have slavery in the nation. We fought a war, not as the primary reason. Remember, do your research, folks. It was actually it wasn't even a tertiary or third reason. It was like the fifth on the list. It was like item E to get to in the Civil War. We actually fought the Civil War over economics. Don't believe me? Look it up. The fact is, we weren't fighting the war because we wanted to free the slaves. That was a side product. That was a benefit. That wasn't why we had the Civil War. Even though people like to revise it and Democrats like to tell us that that's what it was about, even though Democrats were the slave owners and they were the ones responsible for the KKK. But that's another thing. I'm sidetracking. So can we name, and I would ask this of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, is there a statute that says racism is illegal?
No, I would say.
Because there isn't.
Yeah.
There isn't a law. Now, she may feel like there should be. Maybe people think that should be true. There isn't one. It isn't true. There is no law on racism. Now, there's a law about employment and having equal employment, but that's not racism. That's not about racism. We don't have a law that says you're a racist, so you go to jail. They may want to have one, and I do not doubt that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez would try and create one, but there is no law that says racism equals jail. We have an environment that says that if you're accused of something, we have the environment that says, well, that means you're guilty, which they apply to Kavanaugh, they apply to Trump, they apply to basically any conservative, not to people like, who was the Senator Smalley? What's his name? The comedian.
Louis C.K.?
No. The comedian who was elected to the Senate.
Franken?
Al Franken, that's right.
The one.
Al Franken, he didn't get the same. He was guilty, admits he's guilty, and Democrats were like, well, no, we should keep him in office. They wanted to keep him because the rules don't apply to themselves. They apply to you and me. But for themselves, no, because they tried to keep Al Franken in office, even though he was not just accused, but admitted of his sexual assaults. So it's kind of funny. It drives me nuts when I see this, that they have these differences in the rules and the different ways they want to look at one set of people versus another set of people, because it's unfair, it's unjust, and it's wrong. And by the way, folks, again, if you want to check out where did we get the tweets from, again, that's from Ryan Saavedra SAAVEDRA. In case you're listening to the program on audio only, you can look it up on his channel, on his Twitter account at Real Saavedra, and you'll be able to see that. And that was from June 7th at 1:56 p.m. Or you can go where he got it from on C-SPAN and be able to see the whole thing. So I just want to make sure people knew where to get that from. So now that we have that taken care of, you know what? It's time for yet another break. But I think that was a good segment. I wanted to talk about that, and I'm glad that our intern John brought it up so that we can have that in there. Then we'll come back. We're going to talk a little bit about silencers. I know everyone's been hearing about it, but you really haven't heard the truth about it. So let's talk about silencers and what this really means. So we'll be back in just a moment, and we're looking for your comments in the chat room. We're looking for it on Twitter at MV Consult. You can call into the show at 607-242-9247. Please remember, like, share, comment, and subscribe to all of the comment that you love on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, because that's the only way to make sure it's going to be there tomorrow. And if you don't, your content may not be there. But we'll be right back in just a moment with some more.